going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now.
Jimothy.
So ladies and gents, we are back and I'm gonna showcase to you the branded list that I took to my most recent locals. And if there's anything that you feel like I need to change, ladies and gents, definitely get at me in the comment section below. I'm going through a raft of testing at the moment, and there's a few decks that I'm testing that don't involve some of the most powerful cards that have just recently come out, because in all honesty, I'm not too sure if we're going to be able to attend any more high level competitive events at the moment, in terms of regionals, just because of just the nature of when they're falling. Basically, I don't know if we're going to be able to get there, so I don't want to invest in those cards and just not use them and have them sitting in a binder somewhere. So I've decided to go for a more of an anti-meta pick, and this is what I'm going with regards to branded. So starting us off, Triple Aluba, goes without saying, ladies and gents, you know what he does. Searches your branded fusion, branded in red, branded lost if you're lucky enough to open branded fusion. Your opponent typically won't interact with this, especially if you go with the fusion deployment line first and put Cartesia on the board. They're probably going to hold their imperm in that instance, but it's a solid card, 3 off, no less. Its graveyard effect does come up from time to time. It actually saved me from dying once, and actually allowed me to win the game, because I was allowed to clap back basically on my own turn after my opponent burned a lot of resources, try to build up their board through my own board. So definitely nothing to sleep on. Triple Albaz, goes without saying, ladies and gents, helps in a grind game. There was a stage when I was playing 2 of this guy, and I don't know why I was thinking to do that, especially now with all the support that I've got. You do need him as a free off, in my opinion. I feel like you grind so much with this deck. You're not taking in any kind of Chimera engine or anything like that, so you kind of want to just have Albaz at all times in deck, in graveyard, for example. It's a necessity, to be honest. Double Cartesia. You could potentially put this up to 3, and now when I go through the rest of the spells and traps that I've got in the deck, ladies and gents, there's one spot in particular where I didn't even realize I did what I did, but I'll come to that in a moment. But Cartesia is nice. It's good to have as a 3 off potentially, if you just desperately want to open it and just be able to put it onto the board, especially after you've branded fusion. But it's all right at 2, especially with fusion deployment. You potentially don't need any more of her, because you've got her in your you've got 5 copies of her essentially in fusion deployment, as well as fusion deployment being able to kind of tutor Albaz out of deck, which can also act like an interruption or an interaction, so to speak. One Quem is noise. There's an argument for 2, but you don't want to burn your normal summon on it. I am running a bit of a spicy package in the main deck basically, which allows me to search her, which may warrant more than it doesn't warrant more than 1, mainly because I can retrieve her quite easily. But if you weren't playing this package, potentially you could bump her up to 2, but I probably wouldn't play any more than that, just because you want your normal summon to be a Luba, and you don't want both of them in hand and have them conflicting with each other. Next one, Despian Tragedy. Yeah, goes without saying, engine starter, recursion. You don't always want to burn its graveyard or banished effect. Potentially you want to hold that, and you can actually use its effect to banish itself to set 1 branded spell or trap from graveyard. So definitely a nice little touch right there. Only a 1-off. I used to max out on him when I was playing Allure of Darkness, just to try and be a bit greedy, but then I was just hoping to see those specific 2 cards in hand, which is not likely going to happen. That's like a 2-card combo basically. So I just decided not to do that and just go with the 1 and just go with a more consistent route. One thing that I do have a little bit of contention on is Lubellion. It's solid, just in testing, the minimal testing that I've done with this deck since I picked it back up, is I don't see myself using him as much as I used to. Saronia is obviously a nice engine piece in Despia. It can just tutor anything it wants out of the deck. But Lubellion, I know you can search for Saronia, I know you can do various things. You can set, activate, but place branded lost straight from your deck onto the field. But it doesn't come up enough, and as a 1-off, I'm not sure. I feel like it could potentially be another card in the deck, but I'm going to test it again this week and see what Lubellion's saying. Albion, the Shrouded Dragon, goes without saying, is a nice card. Something that's not popular opinion, 1 Ad Libitum. Decks are starting to grind now, and Ad Libitum allows you to grind, and just say no more. And just the fact that he's basically a fusion monster back out of the graveyard, once you've got your fusion plays going, it could actually revive a Dragoon if you're lucky enough. So definitely a nice one to have. Not common, to be honest. but neither is this. Two limits have this. Now, I think I was speaking to Fabs at the end of the last locals, and I remember him that he said that he ran this in his list. It was either Havnis or Shiren. It might be one of the two. I could swap it for Shiren. It's pretty easy, but just any two limits name basically, just to be able to kind of like recur some of your resources out of your graveyard, especially with if you got Querites in there, for example, any of the Despia monsters, Albion. Just being able to get an additional fusion just adds to the grind game. So definitely a nice little tech. I didn't actually have this in my list when I went to locals, but after play testing with it a little bit, doing a couple of test hands, it's actually proved to be pretty nice. So especially as a follow-up player, is a little bit of a one-off, so very spicy indeed. Next up for the one-offs, we've got Spriggan's Kit, we've got Tri-Brigade Mercuria, obviously, and we've got the Goddess of the Third Eye. This could be Hex, Light, Sealed Fusion. It could be Dark Magician. I've just gone with Goddess of the Third Eye, simply just because I couldn't find a Dark Magician in time, but that could literally be anything. And then we have this Monday. Say no more. Gimmick Puppet. It's still a thing. It's probably Branded's most powerful play, so I'm gonna play it. And then obviously for the non-engine, I'm running double Ash for obvious reasons. This deck likes to be greedy with its engine. When I say greedy, it needs its engine to kind of like push through boards basically. So you don't really want to see too many hand traps, but this is a necessity in this deck when I go for the spells and traps. Right, onto the engine, or should I say the non-monster engine. Obviously we got the triple branded fusion. Shit goes without saying, it's at 3. We're playing it at 3. We want to see this in our opening hand. Triple opening, shotgun this in draw phase. Excuse the mixed rarities. I actually gave away a couple of the other MP22s, I think it was, just to trade some stuff, so I don't care anyway. Double branded in red. This is the error, ladies and gents. This should have been a one-off. I'm going to take this out. I don't actually know what I'm going to put it in its place, just because I don't know if I'm going to tweak the whole build completely, but this was literally an error. Like, I was siding in one of my matches, and I seen it, and then I was going through the rest of my deck, and then I seen it again. I was like, hold on, why have I got 2 in here? And I was like, oh, I'm such a clown. But yeah, this should be definitely a one-off. You can play 2, but I wouldn't advise it, to be honest. It's probably something I'm not going to do. Once I've resolved this, I'm probably in a position where I can potentially win the game, especially if you're using this to bring out Guardian Chimera on your opponent's turn. Like, you don't realistically need to see another one, but yeah, it is what it is. And then finally, one last, this card's nice. I wish you could play more, but it's just a bit of a brick. 1 branded Banishment and 1 branded Retribution. Again, Banishment is not common, but I like Banishment. Again, decks like to grind. I like to remove stuff off the field, so this definitely comes into play. You don't have to use its like quote-unquote super poly effect, but just the recursion of the level 8 or higher fusion monster or a Despia monster is just, I just think it's nice. So yeah. Can bring back Quem as well, which is nice. Right, on to the spells that are non-engine. Triple fusion deployment. This is Cartesia or Albaz. Goes without saying, very, very simple. Double crossout designator as well as the 1 core by the grave. These are your defensive options, and this is why I'm playing 2 Ash. I do want to see Ash, but I don't want to see Ash. I want Ash in deck, and if I draw one, I want to be able to still be able to resolve my crossout designator. So I've gone with the 2. You could max out on crossout designator and actually go for the 3, but I've just gone with this because of space. Again, I'm still toying with ratios, and like I said, when I threw this deck together, I was still kind of like in my kind of like deliberating phase. I wasn't sure what I wanted in or out. So yeah, I definitely wanted this card in though, and this card is going to be a mainstay going into the next format. Triple super poly. This card's nice. Even if your opponent does not have monsters on the field, being able to super poly your own monsters in the battle phase and push for that extra damage is nice. Something that actually comes up quite a lot, especially if you manage to clear fields with like Mirror Jade, for example. It's super powerful. Triple forbidden droplets, ladies and gents. Like I said, I feel like board break is potentially the way to go in branded Despia, although we need to be in more of a hand trap format just because of the nature of the decks right now. Fire decks are doing load of searching, and they can actually kind of play through draw pretty easily with the addition of Populous and Princess. So having something to address the board as it is nice, especially with end boards that ended on like IP Masquerainer and Ambler Whale, for example. So Definitely a nice little tech right there, ladies and gents. Triple forbidden droplets, as well as the double Nadir servant. Yeah, this is the little package that I was talking about. It kind of skews what you need to put in your extra deck, just because you want to get the most value out of it. Guru is obviously like a no-brainer, and then on your crap back you can actually send the Havnis or the Shiren or whatever to just fuse with the Garura that's already engraved to put it back into the extra deck, just as a little bit of recursion. But Nadir is a nice little option, especially after you've done most of your main plays. You can just end with Nadir Servant, get Quemon out of the deck basically, and depending on what you dump, you can just plus off that. And then we play the 1 Infinite Impermanence. This is simply because crossout designator. If I draw it, it's nice, but there's times when you actually need your Aluba to go through, and just having a 1 imperm deck does help. I think the deck counts at like 47, so yeah. I was playing 2 imperms, but then I swapped it for the Havnis, just because I wanted to just kind of like see how much the recursion would help, and it actually comes in a lot, ladies and gents. I'm not even gonna lie. Right, onto the extra deck. Extra deck is pretty standard for what you'd probably see in most lists, apart from 3 cards. So double Mirajade, which goes without saying, double Albion, 1 Lubellion, super poly targets. We've got Mud Dragon, Garura, Predaplant Dragon Stapelia. We've also got the Guardian Chimera, Albion the Sanctified Dragon, Rinbrum, as well as the Grand Guignon. That's pretty standard. You probably would see that in most lists. The only thing that's probably a little bit different is the Masquerade, the Queritus, and the Dragoon. Some people are on Dragoon, some people are off Dragoon. I feel like Dragoon's nice, especially in this format. There's a lot of destruction running around. You do need to be aware, because Snake Eyes can just put loads of body on board and just make a Underworld Goddess and just scoop up your Dragoon like it didn't even exist. But it's still a problem. It still needs to be addressed. It warrants an answer. And once it hard negates something that's on field or in hand, it goes up to 4k. So your opponent's is it Fire King High Garunix, the one that basically destroys one from deck and then it gains its attack, finds it difficult to beat over this, because normally it's destroying the Kirin from deck and it gets up to like 36 or 3800, something like that. Dragoon's obviously then 4k, so it can't be over it, can't be targeted, can't be destroyed by card effects. So they have a hard time out in this. It kind of like just sits there, but they can't go into access code talker, which is a bit of a problem. But that's something else that you need to address in it. But yep, all in all, Dragoon's solid. Queritus is nice with a little bit of a float. Keeps your engine going. It can actually save you as well. And Masquerade, and this is where I say, ladies and gents, there's a little bit of a contention, because in terms of honorable mentions, I had these 2 cards, Despia and Lulu Lilith, as well as the, oh, let me put this in shot for you guys, as well as the Titanic Lad. Now, Lulu Lilith was actually in just because it complemented the Queritus, and I took Masquerade, the Blazing Dragon, out. But I feel like Masquerade, along with anything that you set up, is super powerful. Just because it puts so much pressure on your opponent, especially as games are, they're not actually going into time as much, just because the nature of the games are so fast. But I felt like it was a little bit more of a rounded answer compared to Lulu Lilith, which I didn't resolve as much. However, with the Nadir package, it's a little bit like, if I change the ratios of some of my main deck monsters, I might actually put Lulu Lilith back in, as well as a Maximus, Dogmatic and Maximus in the main deck, just because this can just tutor him out. So it's a little bit up for contention. I don't know. Like I said, I'm still messing around with ratios, and Titanic Lad's another one. Like, do I leave him in? Do I leave him out? I've actually got these 2 in the side, to be honest, just because I wanted to just kind of like mess about with like ratios and see which one was like the most efficient. So I'll probably keep Dragoon, but then it's a bit of a question over these 4. So let me know in the comment section below, ladies and gents. And also, for the final honorable mention, this card right here, branded in white. I need to find space in the main deck for this, and I might swap one of the branded in reds for branded in white. This card's nice. It's nice. it allows you to play through getting your branded fusion ash if you've got set up. Obviously, if you haven't got set up, it's a little bit difficult, but it's basically a polymerization that's searchable. So it's a bit silly not to have it in. So I'm going to swap one of the branded in reds for this potentially. And yeah, we'll see how we get on with that. But that is it, ladies and gents. Like I said, I'm still testing this deck. I still want to see what it can do, how I can tech it out in order to kind of like beat the current meta, because I don't want to invest in no cards, and I'm just going to use what I've got. And I feel like branded has got definitely got a good shout, so to speak. But anyway, we find ourselves at the end of another video. As always, if you did like this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff, and I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.